Okay, if you observed the little VT clock at the beginning of this video, then you might have an idea what's inside this box. Now, this is something I bought from eBay about 2 months ago, and it turned up the other day. And inside this box is something brand new. It's a brand new reel-to-reel tape by Ginger Baker's Airforce, and it's never been played and it's still sealed. However, it's also 51 years old. Now, if you followed my social media or this YouTube channel, or you know me in real life, you'll know that I'm a big fan of reel-to-reel tape. This deck I'm playing this tape on at the moment is a Pioneer RT707, and it's just over 40 years old. This machine, along with one other, was actually my late father's. He bought them at the time because he was doing the sound effects for the local Amateur Dramatic Society. And even though I've had to do a few minor repairs to this deck, 40 years on, it's still working as perfectly as it did when it was brand new. And I certainly enjoy using this machine, and it gives excellent sound reproduction on any tape that you care to put on it. Now, this machine actually is what's called a 4-track machine, which means it has 2 tracks going in one direction and 2 tracks going in the other direction, basically like a big cassette tape. If I tilt up to the machine I have above, this is a Revox A77. Now, with the Revox machine, it only has 2 tracks. It has a left track and a right track, or a track 1 and a track 2. And these tracks take half the width of the tape. So you can use these in one of 2 ways. You can either have a stereo recording going in one direction only, or you can have a mono recording where you use both sides of the tape. And this format of having 1 track on each side of the tape is exactly how the British had their pre-recorded reel-to-reel tapes configured. Here in the UK, EMI were the main people producing reel-to-reel tapes. Here's a Beatles Revolver album on reel-to-reel, and I'll switch to the back, and in essence, I suppose it does look a bit like a CD box. It's about the same size. Now, inside the box, you normally had your reel of tape. There's usually a packing slip, and quite often you get one of these as well, which is like a little brochure advertising other EMI tape products. Now, later on, they started putting their tapes in plastic boxes, like this copy of the Beatles' Abbey Road. Again, I suppose it's a bit like a big CD case, a bit like the old fat box cases. This is now on a 5-inch reel because Abbey Road was a much longer album than other Beatles album. It needed a bit more tape. And this one's actually got yellow leader on rather than white leader, because this is actually a stereo tape, which uses a 4-track tape format. But again, you know, it's got the track info on the back. Now, they also produced tapes for other people. The most recognisable was the World Record Club. Now, this is a Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee album. And it says here's World Record Club, but these are all manufactured by EMI. And if we take the lid off, you can see it's on that same type of EMI tape leader on the end, and you've got a little booklet inside. Now, in America, reel-to-reel tapes were mostly on 7-inch spools, and a lot of the time the tapes would actually run at double speed as well. This one here is Bob Dylan's Bringing It All Back Home, and I'm pretty sure this does run at 7.5 inches per second. Yes, 7.5 inches per second. So there's a lot more tape on the spool, but because the spool runs at twice the speed, you get much better sound quality. And this one's got all the sleeve notes on the inside of the box, as well as the track listings on the back. So it's actually a premium, certainly a premium product. And that's what they were going for in America, because the people that bought these generally were a lot more affluent than record buyers. So they wanted something, you know, a bit posher. And here's some others here. This one's the Woodstock album, the second Woodstock album. And these were produced by Ampex for the record company. And of course, Ampex were probably the biggest manufacturer of reel-to-reel recording tape. And Ampex now still, their formula of tape is still being made, I think. They were called Quantigy for a while, and various other brand names. Again, this album's very, very long, so it fills up a full 7-inch spool of tape, but again it's running at 7.5 inches per second, so you will get pretty decent sound quality. Now here's an album very close to my heart. This is the first Arthur Brown album. Now this one actually runs at 3.75 inches per second, and so the sound quality on this isn't as good. But the reason they did them on the slower speeds is that some people didn't have machines that could run the faster speed tapes. So you see here there's a lot less tape on the spool, but nevertheless it's still a nice looking product. And I got one more here. This is a Mongo Santa Maria album. Again, it's 4-track, it's stereo. Most of the American pre-recorded reel-to-reels were stereo. Again, they were going for the hi-fi market, the high-end market. And again, it's got a special printed label on there. Some photos on the back. Okay, let's get back to this parcel then. So I'm just going to open it up. So with my little craft knife, I should just slit a couple of holes there. It does appear to be pretty well packed, which is always a nice thing with these type of packages. You don't want things too badly packaged. Oh yeah, I've got a cut here as well. See if I can get the thing open. Why won't it open? Try that again. There we go. Okay, here's our box. Take a tablespoon. I don't think you can see this. Take a tablespoon and drop it into hot water. Add whatever you like. Some like it with a dab of honey. Some get frothy with their favourite milk. You could try bulletproof or just add some coconut oil. It goes great in smoothies and protein shakes, but don't be afraid to keep it OG and drink it straight up. You're done. Okay, now stir up. Yes, stir up the magic powder up real well before enjoying like these legends you are. I have no idea what that is, but I'm guessing this is some sort of recycled box that was probably selling coffee. Anyway, after that interlude, another package. Gotta say, 10 out of 10 for the seller for packaging. They will get that in their feedback. And here we go. Now, that's interesting. It says this is still sealed. Well, this just looks like a plastic bag that it's been put into. It's not actually sealed at all. So let's open it up and see what's inside. Oh, actually no, that's just extra protection. I correct myself. This is still sealed. You can see, if I do that, you can see the light in my living room. Yeah, this is fully sealed, reel-to-reel tape, and it's like the others I was showing you. It's made by Ampex, who made most of the pre-recorded reel-to-reel tapes. If we look on the spine, it says it's at 3.75 inches per second, double play. Now, this album was originally released as a double album, which would be why it's running at a slower speed, because you probably wouldn't have fitted everything on here. If you look at the people in his band on this album, Ginger Baker, Steve Winwood, Graham Bond, Howard McNair, Denny Lane, Chris Woods, Rick Gretsch. So you've got 3 members of Traffic on there. And this album, as you can possibly tell by the design, is a live album recorded at the Royal Albert Hall. And of course, this is like the red curtains that are in the boxes at the Royal Albert Hall. So really nice looking tape here. And well, what do? Well, of course, we open it up. Now, some people will say, oh, you can't open it up, it'll ruin its value, but there's no value to something if you can't experience it. That's my view. Right, that's the wrapping off. Now, you can see a couple of marks here. That's called foxing. It's just like a sort of stain that appears over time. There's not a lot that you can do about that. But the front looks really clean anyway. So let's open it up. If I can get it open. It's almost like it's actually got stuck. Let's just, if I put my knife in backwards, ouch, or maybe forwards. There we go. Will that open now? Yeah, there we go. Right, let's open him up. And there we go. Now, interesting. The tape doesn't have any leader on it. There's no leading tape on that. And I always think that's a bit cheap. If you look at the EMI ones, like say the Beatles Abbey Road, you open it up and it's got a printed leader, and the printed leader also has the name of the album on it and the side of the album. So it says there, it's got the catalogue number, the speed, side 1, Abbey Road, the Beatles. Whereas our American counterpart of music, released pretty much around the same time, slightly after Abbey Road, has no leader at all. Anyway, that's the tape. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to play it. Now, I can't let you hear any of this because of content matches, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to record some of this into the computer, and then we're just going to look at the audio waveform and just sort of get an idea of you know, the sort of quality we get of this tape. Okay, then we've got the tape spinning nicely on the deck, and then if I pan around to the computer, yeah, you can see it's recording, and it's just a bit of a spoken intro at the moment on the album, so it's probably not going to hit a content match, but there you can see it dubbing away, and I'm going to keep this running now until the end of the album, and then we can see afterwards what it's like. Okay, well, here's what's called a spectral representation of the recording that I've just made. I didn't record the whole album, I just did about the first half hour just as a test. And here's where most of the frequency information is, and as it gets darker at the top, that's where basically we lose information and where there's basically not much left. And if I just zoom in on this point, here you can see the scale representing here, and this is the frequency in hertz. And if we get up to say 10k, it's pretty solid all along here. This bit at the end here, actually where we lose frequency, this is actually where there's a drum solo, so there's less instruments, so there's less high frequencies. So if we concentrate on this part here, at 10k we've still got information. We actually have audio information almost going up to just past 15k. So for a tape that was running at a relatively slow speed, to get such a good frequency response is actually, you know, pretty good. I mean, I'd say probably where the red is probably where you hear most of the sound, and that's about 10k. So 10, 12 to 15k, round about that point is where it kind of tails off. And for a slow reel-to-reel tape, that indeed is very good. So I'm actually reasonably impressed. Now, how did it sound to my ears? Well, it sounded really good. And listening to it at low volume, it sounded like it could have been just an LP or a CD. There we have then a premium product of the early 1970s. I suppose to some people this was thought of a bit like buying a Blu-ray audio or a DVD audio disc of an album today, because people that bought these wanted something, you know, that was a little bit fancy and a little, almost I suppose, a little bit elitist, you could say. But never mind that, this sounds really, really decent for what it is. Now, it's obviously not going to be as good as a fully remastered CD or a high-res download or something, but as a curio for something that's 50 years old, I think it's a rather nice thing to have. And bizarrely, I've seen a few more of these actually turn up on eBay and Discogs that are still sealed. So there's obviously been a warehouse or somewhere that had a bunch of these, and they're gradually being sold off. So if you want to pick yourself up a copy, you can, but they're not cheap. Reel-to-reels are never cheap. It's really hard to find one of these American reel-to-reels of any artist under about 25, 30 pounds. You can occasionally, but not very often. And the more premium artists like, for example, Led Zeppelin, you know, they would go for, you know, over £100 quite easily. So it's an expensive thing to find, which is why I've only got a couple, because they're just too pricey to get into. But, you know, it's a fun thing to have nevertheless. And as for the little VT clock at the beginning of this video, what could it be? Obviously, it's a piece of software for the BBC Micro.